What up, my ninjas? I'm Don LaForêt, and welcome to my review of Kagayake Kintaro. It is the final episode of our Yojimbo arc. In my opinion, it's quite the solid conclusion. Gripping action, plot, and character development actually complemented each other quite nicely. Let's start off with the plot. It wrapped up quite a few loose ends, including Jay's plan and demise. Talk about satisfying. Combined with its heartwarming partnerships made it even more enjoyable. There were, as usual, more nods to the Usagi Yojimbo comics, featuring more of Sakai's art, the cat ninja, and Jay's immortality. Now, the character development as well, especially for Kintaro, was quite, I think, profound, but I appreciate that all the turtles learned a little something. Now, when it comes to the action, I would probably complain about how unnecessary the battle against the cat ninja was, but I actually don't think so. For one, it did not take too long of the episode, and it provided opportunity for Kintaro to showcase a little bit of courage and finally gratitude towards Usagi.
But if you ever need me, I will return.
The 2012 Usagi Miyamoto, as I mentioned in my first review of our Yojimbo arc, is quite a well-rounded character. He has deep ties to the comics and even the 2003 show with his formidable action and tragic backstory. Oh, let's not forget his morality. It is second to none. However, this version is quite different down to the incorporation of strong leaps in his fighting style. Besides that, Usagi is a flawed character, including his occasional awkwardness relating to others. In this particular episode, Usagi was more of a mentor and friend for Kintaro, rather than a detached bodyguard. He was firm in his advice to his charge, but affectionate when the turtles were a little too rude. By the end of the episode, he certainly earned Kintaro's love and loyalty. I am particularly comforted to know that he guards the Ninja Turtles' relics, well, likely so they won't fall into the wrong hands. I'm sure there are also sentimental reasons for keeping them too. Regardless, there is a good chance that the Ninja Turtles can be summoned back to Usagi's world as long as the relics are not destroyed. It will likely be in the far future though, so not in this season.
I saw you on the mountain. You held your ground and tried to help fight the ninja. That was pretty impressive, Kintaro.
Now I know. We've talked plenty about how similar Usagi and Leo can be, both in their weapon of choice and in how they fight. But there's another similarity presented to us. Both of them were most sympathetic to Kintaro. Now, Leo isn't necessarily the most patient or understanding turtle, even way back in Season 1 where he continually left Pulverizer or Mikey or whoever he didn't want to be with Donnie. But there's also recently his short fuse when Splinter died. That's why I find it a little surprising that he had a soft spot for Pugtaro. For one, he might see Kintaro as his responsibility. Escorting the young child to the temple is an important mission, especially with Jay's threat hanging in the air. Leo might actually care for the child to make the mission easier for them both. Not to mention that Leo at this point naturally cares for anyone he is responsible for. It's entirely possible as well that Leo saw himself in Kintaro. They both had much potential, but their strong egos impeded their growth. Now, Leo's brothers often kept their leader grounded, so Leo knows how harsh his brothers can be. To offset their ridicule when it got too far, he provided some compliments so that Kintaro had a more accurate view of himself.
Hey, what happened to your great strength, golden boy?
Mikey, Raph, and Donnie completely lost patience with the Pug Cub's spoiled nature. And while I don't blame them, it was unfortunate that they continually stooped to his level to give him a taste of his own medicine. Thankfully, they stopped periodically every time Leo told them to. At least by the end of the episode, they gave credit where credit was due. It was particularly satisfying to watch Mikey and Raph in particular compliment Kintaro.
Jay, release them from your power, evil one!
Speaking of the child, I think it's fair to say Kintaro is the star of the episode in both character development and action. He finally came around to treating Usagi fairly. I think it started after the bodyguard was initially kinder to Kintaro. It helped the child feel vulnerable since he knew Usagi didn't look down on him as Raph and Donnie did. Once he took Usagi's advice to heart, Kintaro had room to grow. Had this arc been longer, Kintaro's compassion, humility, and courage would have developed as a more profound and gradual shift rather than a sudden switch in personality. As relieved as I am regarding Kintaro's change in heart, I would have loved that extra time to get to know him and Usagi's world.
You will do nothing, Ronin. All that has happened is as I intended.
Finally, we understand Jay's master plan. His desire for a new and strong host makes complete sense and explains his focus on Kintaro. In my last review, I also mentioned my confusion over Jay toying with the turtles. It seemed beneath him and kind of unnecessary. That particular aspect was explained too. Of course, Jay wants to keep an eye on his new host through the turtles. That way, he also maintains a strong grip on his servants. Now, clearly, consistency was not sacrificed for shock factor, with Jay's past comments about the turtles being his simple pawns and Kintaro's usefulness fleshed out. I'm glad to see this arc was well planned.
So long, Kintaro. You did good.
Now that's it for now, my ninjas. I'd love to hear your thoughts on my question of the day, though. Now, Jay's demise, it was set up rather convincingly, but I don't think he dies in the comics. I do remember something about Usagi's blade becoming a spiritual weapon, though. Regardless, I'd love to know whether you think Jay will come back in Usagi's world, and if the turtles might be summoned once again. Nonetheless, we will talk soon for a heartwarming episode of Lone Rat and Cubs. Until then, my ninjas.